What's the best prank you've ever heard of, seen, experienced? When my parents first got married, this is, maybe, 1948 or so, my mother took the morning newspaper on April Fool's Day, hid it away, and gave it to my father on April Fool's Day morning the following year. He says that when he realized it was all over for him, he would never be safe again. While they were still dating, during World War II, they went to a costume party and my dad made a hat with a relay station on it. He wired the lights to a switch in his pocket and flashed out dirty jokes with the lights to his fighter pilot buddies and Morse code throughout the night. So the party would be going on, and then all the guys would burst out laughing for no apparent reason. My flatmates cut out pics from porno magazines and taped them all over the passenger side of my car. The way my car was parked, I could not see any of it when I drove off to work. I was wondering why everyone was honking at me on the freeway and giving me weird looks. Finally, my manager at work calls me outside to explain why there are blowjobs on my hubcaps. That's awesome. My roommate had a really flashy fast car back in the day. We put these light LED valve caps on the passenger side of his car. They only light up when they have centrifugal force, so he drove around 4 weeks thinking people were giving him all these looks because of his nice car, but really his passenger side was lighting up with hot pink wheels. I did something similar once. I was living in the dorms with 3 other guys. One of us left for break earlier than the other 3, so we basically had to prank him. We went down to the store and bought a Playgirl, cut out as many pictures with dicks in them as we could find and taped them to the ceiling above his bed. We expected to get a couple of laughs from it when he got back, but that was when he flunked out of school, so he came back with his parents to pack everything up. I wish I was there when his parents saw what was above his bed. When my dad was in his early 20s, he had a friend who had a really nice brand new convertible and was obsessed with it. Talked about how awesome it was, how fast it went, how much better it was than the pieces of shit they drove. Basically was a total douche about his awesome car. So my dad and his friends started carrying gas cans around town in their own cars, and every time they would hang out with this guy or see his car around town, they'd put a gallon of gas in his tank. Kept it up for a month or 2 and then everyone stopped all at once. Apparently the douche friend spent hours making himself look like an idiot, yelling at the dealership that he was not getting the gas mileage he used to and something was wrong with the car. Of course the people at the car dealership were staring at him like he was completely off his gourd. The late 1960s? Of course his car wasn't getting 40 miles to the gallon. This is the best prank I've participated in. In my college dorms, rooms were organized into suites of 4 rooms, 8 people, that had a private bathroom, living room, balcony, and hallway. Each suite was permanently locked from the main hallway, so you needed a key or needed to knock to get it. Me and my roommate had a bunch of friends in another suite. We lived with them the previous year, but left them for a 10th floor amazing view, and one night we went to their suite to return a borrowed Xbox controller. Upon leaving, we duct taped thin cardboard over the hole that the doorknob latch goes into, thus making the door closed, but unlocked. We came back at like 3 in the morning when we were sure they were all asleep. And we placed on the toilet in the bathroom stall a dummy that we made. He was made of jeans, shoes, and a hoodie all bought from Value Village, stuffed with crumpled newspaper. His head was a plastic bag stuffed with newspaper. Then we locked the stall door from the inside. The next morning, the girl that had spent the night there awkwardly waited over half an hour for the guy in the stall to leave, but ended up just walking down to the lobby to use the restroom. A guy sat in the stall next to the occupied one and attempted to make small talk, then feeling really awkward when the guy wouldn't respond. A number of suite mates tried to figure out who's been in the bathroom so long. And when they talked about it together they realized that it had been hours. One of them finally took the risk of peering in the crack, and they had a good laugh about it and called us to talk. They knew it must have been my roommate and I. Part 2. That last prank was then used as a setup to this next prank. I snuck into their suite again with the help of my roommate, this time at a normal time like 5 o'clock in the evening. However, I was dressed in the same shoes, jeans, and hoodie as our dummy, stuffed with some extra newspaper to make me crumply. I even had the plastic bag with newspaper over my head, with room to breathe, don't worry. I sat on a toilet for maybe 20 minutes. This time with the door unlocked. Then someone noticed my shoes and looked in the stall gap. He went to get some other guys to show them that Gabe and Ryan did it again. When he came back with the other guys, they opened the stall door and one of them reached forward to grab what they thought was the dummy. So I grabbed him back, stood up, and screamed. And they screamed. It was hilarious. My friend and his girlfriend recently got engaged. As an engagement gift, a bunch of us got together to buy a portrait for them. We bought the portrait from this guy, named Picasso, who is famous for drawing portraits with his dick. The portrait even came with a video of him drawing it with his penis. Neither one of them has ever seen this video. When we gave the painting to them, they were really excited. We told them that the paints had a taste to them, and that they should give it a lick, and smell it. They must have tried licking that stupid fucking portrait for at least 5 minutes before giving up. They currently have their portrait hanging in their living room, above the fireplace. We do not plan to give them the DVD of him painting their faces with his wang for at least a few years. So every time one of us comes over, we get a nice chuckle at the dick painting they have so proudly hung on their wall. Once my roommate and I spent an afternoon sewing all the sleeves closed on our other roommate's long-sleeved shirts. The sewing was done right at the end of the sleeve, so he would stick his arm through but then not be able to get his hand out. When he first discovered them, he thought that the dryer had melted all of his sleeves together. It was awesome. I had a teacher's assistant that told me this one. Him and some friends had a college buddy that would get super duper drunk and pass out on top of his bunk in his dorm, as all aspiring men should. His dorm was on the 6th floor. One night after he passed out, they moved all of his furniture into an empty, identical room on the 1st floor. They set up everything in the new room exactly the same and placed him on his bunk. They gave his body some time to sleep sober up, so that he could appreciate what they were about to do to him. One of his buddies woke him up in a panic, yelling nonsense, getting him out of bed and getting him ready to leave. He was able to grab a shirt out of the closet and start putting his shoes on. All of his belongings were exactly where he thought they were, so he didn't notice the change in rooms. Seconds later, 3 others barged through the door, grabbed the drunkard, and threw him out the window. He screamed for his life thinking he would fall 60 feet, only to land after 2 feet in some shrubs. He got equally drunk the next night. A friend of a friend told me this. At first I didn't believe her, but then she grasped my arm and swore that it was true. She was a medical student at the time, and this meant that she and her friends had access cards to the hospital morgues. And, after a night at a bar, they decided to head down there and prank a guy called Phil. They found an empty morgue shelf and she got on it. They were going to cover her with a blanket. Go get Phil, who worked upstairs, and bring him down to look at corpses, where she would leap out at him. So they shut her in the morgue shelf with a sheet over her, and she listened to them leave, drunken and chuckling. At first she was really enthusiastic. After 10 minutes less so, and after half an hour truly terrified. She said there were 4 things she learnt about those shelves. First, there's no way to open them from the inside. Secondly, they are really cold. There's nowhere, why would there be? And fourthly, there are no walls to the shelves, there's no need for privacy. As she tore off her sheet and was breathing heavily, she could see rows and rows of corpses above, below and around her. No one came for her. She was breathing heavily and was terrified. When suddenly she feels an icy hand grip her arm and the body below start to scream and throttle her. Terrified, she howls and struggles. Bill holds her to the shelf and climbs up slowly, so she can see its face. It's Phil. My friends and I were trying to come up with the best insults against each other. This had been going on for months, and I was doing very well. Then one friend called me a name and said it was Turkish for sucker. I didn't bother to look it up or confirm, but I liked the way it sounded, and started using it myself. At a barbecue for my best friend's law school graduation party, my friend had taught everyone, including my best friend, his fiancée, all the parents, etc. to call me this Turkish name. I thought nothing of it since I have a thick skin and laughed it off. Days go by, and as I'm messaging my friend on GChat, he calls me the Turkish word. And then out of pure fun, I decide to spell it backwards. It was almost as if God was telling me to. Lo and behold, as soon as I spell it backwards, I pause, put my head down in shame, and realize it was my first and last name spelled backwards. This had been going on for a week and everyone knew but me. How wretched this world is. One time during the holidays, a bunch of my cousins were over at my house. We were hanging out late playing video games in the basement. Then one of the guys fell asleep before anyone else. So one of us went upstairs, grabbed a hot dog out of the freezer, put some hot sauce on the end of it and went to wake him up. The prankster pulled down his zipper, put the hot dog through the hole, and started pushing the hot dog with the hot sauce tip to the lips of the sleeping guy. He started sucking on his lips, felt the heat and woke up to see a man standing in front of him with a zipper down and piece of meat sticking out pressing on his lips. He jumped up and screamed, slapping the hot dog away. We were all dying from laughter until our stomachs hurt. My first job out of college was a programmer for a consulting firm that assisted the Marine Corps. One day, a lieutenant colonel joined the firm, and immediately decided that I was his prank target. His previous job? Deactivating landmines in Afghanistan. As I meandered to work that morning, I went and got my coffee and prepared to sit down. Right before I sat, I noticed something large and metal in my seat. It was a goddamn landmine. It was deactivated, at least I told myself that, but it freaked me out. So, you know by now, you shouldn't mess with a programmer who is vengeful. As I worked on the user interface, we did test runs in test artillery fields. The lieutenant colonel was all about showing that he could use the system. But I put a Easter egg for him that when he entered his call sign, the system would miss by a fraction of a degree. He would compete with the other staff sergeants who liked me, and they were all in on the joke. They would hit 30/35 targets, and he would hit only 5/35. As he missed, one by one, he would get more furious. I could have been into a lot of trouble for that Easter egg. But luckily, I told my supervisor who told my CEO, the CEO told the lieutenant colonel's commanding officer. At the end of the first round, the CEO said, "Lieutenant Colonel, you're just having a tough time. Why don't you change your call sign to Prince of Shapir?" He used my actual name. The Lieutenant Colonel did it, and he hit 33 out of 35. A while ago, somebody posted a rage comic about him getting drunk and waking up, naked, to a pissed off Asian guy screaming at him in some foreign language. The drunk guy sobered up quickly and started begging the Asian guy to speak in English. The Asian guy screams at him, "You drunken American spy, what are you doing in North Korea? Kim Jong-un will kill you pigs with nuclear fire." The sobered guy starts sobbing and apologizing and telling him he has no idea how he got there. Asian guy won't have any of it, pulls out a huge gun and tells him to lay down on the floor and pay his respects to North Korea and Kim Jong-un. The guy thinks he is about to die. Until his dad walks in. Tells him to get dressed and that the Asian guy is actually his co-worker John. And tells him never to get blackout drunk on his couch again. Guy, in comic. You motherfucking, thunder cunt, son of a bitching fuckwad. That was by far the worst prank that has ever been played on me. Dad, you're a genius.